No matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
Don't you hate these post-game shows, Dave Manouk, where there's nothing to talk about? How are we ever going to fill the next hour, maybe 2 hours, after that Jets Wild game? Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. And for all those joining us live this evening on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good evening, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. With Dave Manouk, I'm your host, Drew Mandel, here to talk about what has to be one of the most heated, entertaining, just passionate games that we've seen this year, probably in the entire NHL. It comes down at game 81 of the regular season, and with the 3-1 victory, it means that Thursday night will not be the final Illegal Curve postgame show of this season. Good to see you, Mr. Manouk. The Winnipeg Jets are playoff bound after going into Minnesota and defeating the Wild by that 3-1 margin.
And it's not just the Winnipeg Jets, Drew, that are heading to the playoffs. The Manitoba Moose over in Texas, where things are bigger, they also punched their ticket to the playoffs. So it'll be a Jets, Moose, playoffs, and the ice. So there's lots of playoff hockey here in Winnipeg. The Moose did it in somewhat unexpected fashion. We'll get into that later in the half of the show. But they made it more difficult on them than they needed to. But they set some records in Texas. So things are happening. There's joy in Joyland, as former Jets head coach Claude Noel used to say. And the fact of the matter is that, you know, Jets did something that they couldn't do all season long. They were 0-3 against the Minnesota Wild. Mm-hmm. They've been outscored 14-4 in the final regular season battle of friendly Manitoba against Minnesota. Not so nice.
There was nothing friendly. There was nothing nice about tonight's game.
Well, traditionally, we're a nice people. They're a nice people, but it was not so friendly Manitoba against Minnesota. Not so nice tonight, because the refereeing from both teams' perspective, I'm sure, was, to use the word kindly, incompetent. And, it led to some shenanigans late in the game, which we'll discuss throughout the course of this broadcast. But the fact of the matter is, Jets fans are excited because this team has done something, and it's not just by fluke. I mean, got to give Connor Hellebuyck his due.
Yeah, it was Hellebuckian as per usual.
As I tweeted numerous times, Hellebuckian, how did he make that save?
Holy Hellebuck.
And I'll remind folks that there's a reason why when they did the three awards that they did before the game against who was the last game against?
San Jose.
San Jose. I was thinking Seattle.
It was a whole 24 hours ago.
I know it was like a West Coast team, and it had a light blue jersey. I just couldn't picture it exactly, but a green, blue, whatever. But anywho, the point is, there's a reason why Connor Hellebuyck for 5 of the last 6 years has been has won the 3-star awards each and every year. So except for, like I said, the 1 year where Kyle Connor was the winner, but Connor Hellebuyck is a big part of that win. The team playing a good structure, is a good part of that win. And needing that win and needing it. They just needed it. And the fact of the matter is, even though both teams played back-to-backs, the Wild rested, 4 to 6 of their main guys, of their starters. They didn't travel with them to Chicago yesterday, where they defeated the Blackhawks 4-2. So, I know that, first of all, they were down in the game, so that's why they came out. But they, of course, were out shooting the Jets. I think it was like 10-1 and 13-2 in the third period at certain points. And the fact of the matter is, they had a lot of guys who were fresh and energized, and of course, they were chasing the game.
You know what? Yeah, there's so much to talk about in tonight's contest, but from the Winnipeg Jets perspective, you have to look at the last week and a half, 2 weeks. You had the 5-game homestand. Yeah. And they obviously took care of business on that 5-game homestand for the most part, winning 4 out of 5, 8 out of 10 points. They go into Minnesota tonight. So this isn't an easy situation that they're necessarily stepping foot in. You have to win on the road against the team that you haven't played well against all season. The last couple of years, to be perfectly honest, the Minnesota Wild have had the Winnipeg Jets number. You go into St. Paul, both teams on the second half of a back-to-back. As you said, the Wild rested an absolute ton of their players last night in Chicago. So it wasn't sort of the equal footing, as the Jets have, of course, been riding their players hard in an effort to get into the playoffs. you have to like the fight that the Winnipeg Jets demonstrated in tonight's game. Now, did they win because of Connor Hellebuck? Well, yes. This is the Winnipeg Jets, after all. You wouldn't have it any other way, would you? This is a game where Connor Hellebuck made, I mean, you can't even begin to count the number of grade A saves that he made throughout the course of the game. There were at least 3 or 4, I think, that come to mind that left me saying, holy bleep, how did he do that? Even though it's becoming routine for us to see him doing that year in, year out, game in, game out. But the Jets still managed to come away with a victory. And what I like even more, because this isn't a Winnipeg Jets team that's really known for being particularly physical, that's really known for being particularly tough to play against. When the Wild really got physical and goony, because let's call it what it was. Ryan Reeves on Dylan DeMello, that's goony. Ryan Hartman on Nikolai Ehlers, well, that's just bullshit. I mean, that play is not a hockey play.
No, it's predatory.
That's predatory. It's a crackback block. The NFL has deemed it illegal to have a crackback block, and that's a textbook crackback block. If that's not, it should have kicked him out of the game for it. The fact it didn't speaks to the incompetent officiating. If he doesn't get suspended for it, well, that speaks to the incompetent NHL Department of Player Safety, but we're used to that being incompetent as well. But what I like is that the Jets didn't lose their minds. They're facing these ridiculous hits, and they stayed with it. I thought they would have lost their cool. I was losing my cool, and I don't really get that passionate or that fired up about anything except for pizza. So when I'm watching the game at home and I'm getting fired up about the dirty play that I'm witnessing, and I'm getting, my phone is blowing up from my friends and colleagues talking about what they're watching. But the Jets stayed with it. They stayed in the moment, and it was only after they had the game in hand, when it was 3-1 and there were mere seconds to go in the game, even though the final minute or 2 minutes seemed like it took about a solid 20 to 25 minutes. That's when the Jets said, you know what? You've taken enough liberties with us. We're going to show that we're going to fight back a little bit. And if you want to be dirty, we're going to match your dirty. I like Neil Pionk's cross-check. Yeah, it's not a hockey play. Yeah, it shouldn't be in the game. But when you have to send a message both to the Wild and to the rest of the league that we're not going to get bullied, that's the kind of thing you need to see happen. So Neil Pionk cross-checking him, dirty play, might get fined for it. Hell, if he gets suspended for it on for Thursday's game, so be it. It doesn't matter.
They're doing him a favor to let him rest.
That's right. I like the message that it sends to everyone else. Adam Lowry taking on Ryan Reeves. Well, I mean, I don't know how you can't be impressed by that. Ryan Reeves, is a fringe player at best, as we all well know. The only thing he can do is, basically lay out players with dirty hits and then fight in response to that. Adam Lowry said, enough is enough. You're going to be on the ice. Your head coach, Dean Evison from Manitoba, doesn't have enough class. He wants to escalate this further. That's fine. You can escalate it. I'm gonna answer the bell. I'm gonna match him. And yeah, I'm not at Ryan Reeves' heavyweight category of fighters.
Yeah,
but I'm gonna still hold my own, and he did, and he held his own and more. Reeves threw more punches. Lowry probably got a better punch in on Reeves. But that's the Jets saying we're not going to be bullied anymore. Brendan Dillon against Ryan Hartman. Yeah, Brendan Dillon is going to go after Hartman because Hartman shouldn't even be in the game at that point. So Brendan Dillon, yeah, you go and you take Hartman's number. And when you're battling in front of the net in the course of the play, you're going to take some liberties with him. And then Brendan Dillon did the classy thing, and he could have kept wailing on him after Hartman turtled, but he didn't because, again, that's a one-sided battle. But the Jets said we're not going to be bullied. And that is my main takeaway from that third period, is this team that has been shrouded in doubt, deservingly so, for the last 20, 25, 30 games of this regular season, maybe grew a little bit taller during tonight's game, maybe had a little bit of a spine, their spine got a little bit, their hackles up. Like I watched my dog when she gets upset. The Jets said enough is enough, and we're going to stand up for ourselves. And I think that dressing room is probably frothing at the mouth in both celebration and in confidence right now based on tonight's 3-1 victory over the Minnesota Wild.
Woo-wee, Drew is fired up. I thought the fire above my head was on fire. The chat is on fire. People are loving the fact that Drew, is our boy Bruce just said, you're crushing it at the buffet. Yeah. Well done.
Yeah, I still got the buffet as closed sign from last time Kenny was on.
Just reverse it and hold it on yourself right now, Drew.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and I have nothing to nitpick away from your points. I think you're there, right?
Sorry, I feel a lot better now.
Woo, that was cathartic for you.
I mean, I got to tell you, I can't think of the last time that this Jets team has got me fired up, or a result from a game has got me fired up. Yeah, they get me fired up when when they play poorly and things of that nature. But it wasn't a good day for the Winnipeg Jets organization off the ice, and we'll touch on that in the tone deaf video and ad campaign and everything else. We'll touch on that probably later in the show, or maybe on Saturday. Probably not on Saturday because we have a playoff series we're going to have to preview on Saturday for a couple hours. But so from a bad day off the ice to a good day on the ice has probably got people's emotions really bubbling up. It certainly got my emotions bubbling up, and I'm really not a guy that gets that gets too fired up or gets too excited about what they're watching from this team on a night in, night out basis, Dave.
How'd you start talking again? I thought it was we were just finished hearing you rant and rave, and suddenly I'm listening to you. I'm thinking to myself, like, wait a second, how's Drew got the mic again? I thought it was my time to shine. But hey, like I said, when you got when Piggy's got the conch, Piggy's got the conch, and you had the conch, so I was gonna let you have it. I think what you said, and I think I'll just try and maybe do it a little more succinctly because you were great, Drew, is the fact that the Jets showed heart. And that's what you wanted to see from a Jets team, the give a shit level, as we talk about. Mm-hmm. And it was there from look, I mean, they got caved in the first period, and they needed Connor Hellebuck to do their thing. They got some good goals early on, but I what was the final shot tally in that first? I think they were outshot 14-4 or 13-4, maybe 12-4. 12-4. Yeah. But anyway, so the Minnesota Wild came out, and again, we've talked about it. They had some rested players, so there was an advantage there versus the Jets, who were coming off that game yesterday. But the fact of the matter is, if you're the Winnipeg Jets and you're feeling good about your game, like it's not just about, again, like I said, it's always going to be about Connor Hellebuck. But we should actually we should get money. We should charge ourselves even every time we say this. You don't apologize for having one of the best goaltenders. Like, no offense, the Nashville Predators were where they were as of today's game because of UC Saros. Mm-hmm. Like, UC Saros is like, I watched that game in Calgary. The Calgary Flames should have won yesterday, but UC Saros was fantastic. Well, Jets fans have seen Connor Hellebuck for too many years to be shocked that he is fantastic and does what he does, which helps his team win night in and night out. But the fact of the matter is that from puck drop, this team showed heart. And you're right, Drew, the third period really, I thought, illustrated that. But it was throughout the course of this hockey game where guys played for each other. And sure, I agree with the assessment from Kevin Sawyer on the broadcast, because he did say that, especially in the first, there were some miscues, right? A lot of pucks given away, unnecessary opportunities for the Minnesota Wild. But the Jets cleaned that up, I thought, a little bit better throughout the course of this hockey game. And like I said, it just comes back to playing a structured game for the most part, and playing with heart. And I mean, you see it with that goal. And again, I don't want to get too far into the goal assessment because we're still in our preamble here, Drew. We haven't gotten into the Betway game recap.
We're going to have to do a Betway penalty recap at some point in time also.
And look, and the question is, and we don't know, and I'm not sure if you've seen it on your screen, on your second screen, as to whether there's an update on Nikolai Ehlers or not, because we didn't see him for the rest of the game. He did go to the room. So, I mean, ultimately that Hartman play could end up being very costly for the Winnipeg Jets. Will most likely maybe not get an assessment unless Rick Bowness just says it was precautionary that they held him out for the remainder of the game.
Well, when you see him go to his head, he's definitely going to go to the quiet room, the NHL, the NHL, which may or may not be awake half the time. Hopefully the concussion spotter.
Well, once it hits Drew, once it hits 10 o'clock in the East Coast, they're done. They're done for the night.
You're right. No other games matter besides East Coast time games.
They've been sleeping for at least an hour. The fact of the matter is, though, that, like I said, so there is some concerns for the Jets. And like I said, it was weird because Wild fans have been heated since the game here in Winnipeg where Kirill Kaprizov was knocked out by Logan Stanley, and everybody's calling for blood. And it's funny because Kaprizov's like, yeah, it was a hockey play. It was, obviously not intentional. And they were like, well, we don't care what you think. We have our own opinions. And you did wonder if there was going to be some bad blood carrying over from what happened with Kaprizov here in Winnipeg to tonight's game. And like I said, that, was Hartman just making a predatory decision in the third period, not trying to just target, or he could have been pissed because Ehlers had a completely clean hit. And that's one of the things about the NHL I hate now is that you can't have a clean hit without having to answer for it, because it's not like he blew him up.
No, Ehlers' hit was
I mean, Nikolai Ehlers isn't exactly 6'5", 400 pounds coming down, at light speed to kill someone in the board. So it wasn't even a big hit. But anyways, The fact is that the Jets, as to your point, Drew, the Jets were able to not back down, because this is not the big, heavy Dustin Byfuglien on the team, so everybody's a foot taller. Because people forget that. Sure, Ben Sherratt was on the team. They were tougher. They were a tougher team, in 17-18. There's no question about it. But Dustin Byfuglien made everybody tougher. It didn't matter who you were. Lee Stepniak was like 7 feet tall when Dustin Byfuglien was around. So the fact is that the Jets had a different mindset when he was on the ice. Now, I'm not saying that they're completely removed from that time, but they weren't the same team, for the last couple of years that they have been back then. And that's fine. Teams evolve all the time. But when Kevin said it on the broadcast, these guys played for each other. Something happened. They went to each other's defense. They didn't just say, "Oh, look, he got nailed and nobody's going to answer." Brendan Dillon, if anybody who's going to on this team is going to be that kind of that Warriors code and who's going to make someone pay for hitting one of your guys, it's Brendan Dillon.
That's right.
Brendan Dillon or really Adam Lowry. Those are your two guys on this team who are going to make someone answer for doing something to one of your teammates.
And they did. And as I talked about, and as I don't need to rehash again, the Jets responded both on the ice and getting that absolutely massive goal from Mason Appleton. We'll get into that momentarily in the Betway game recap. And then when the game was in hand, they also responded with the physicality. They didn't back down. They said, "Okay, we've had enough. Now we can have a little bit of fun. We're up 3-1. We're about to go to the playoffs. We're going to have a little bit of fun now with some fisticuffs for the rest of this game." And of course, when that stuff happens, you hope that nobody gets injured. You don't punch a helmet and break a hand. That's obviously the fear, of course, when you're watching Lowry and Ryan Reeves throw down there a little bit. Niederreiter and Ryan Reeves. Look, everything about that third period was a little wild and woolly, especially the end of it. But nonetheless, it ends up with the Winnipeg Jets in the playoffs. And they're really fortuitous. They are lucky. They have 6 days off whenever the playoffs start. We know that the earliest, according to Mike McIntyre of the Winnipeg Free Press, and no reason to doubt Mike here, that the earliest the playoffs are going to start is Monday. Well, the Jets, obviously, that game on Thursday doesn't mean anything. They're locked into the second wildcard spot.
Let me tell you, that entire extra line of David Gustafsson, Carson Coleman, and Axel Jonsson-Fjällby will get some game action on Thursday.
No question. Everyone, Logan Stanley's getting in. Kyle Capobianco's getting in. David Riddick, I'm sure, is going to be the starting goaltender. I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, you want to start Connor Hellebuyck for the 14th straight game?
I think you'd want to give him the night off instead. I wouldn't be surprised if they call up one of the Moose goaltenders now that the Moose have clinched a playoff spot tonight. I actually
was thinking that for some reason in my head, because Arvid Holm didn't play. Now it turned out I found out it was due to illness because the Moose recalled Evan Cormier.
Right.
But there was a part of me that was wondering if they were going to be doing that. And of course, I was inclined to not think it would be for tonight's game. So if they were going to do that, they would have done it for the game on Thursday. We'll still see if they can do that. But Oskari Salminen was in net today with Evan Cormier backing him up. Arvid Holm out due to illness.
It would not surprise me in the least bit if Hellebuyck and a lot of the regulars on this team don't even make the trip to Denver. No reason.
They actually, Drew, they might end up calling up Evan Cormier, who, of course, the Jets signed to that contract. He, of course, would be most likely the black ace with the Jets when playoffs start. But you could see Cormier get recalled and potentially, and even back up David Riddick.
Yeah, lots of moving parts as it pertains to the Jets roster on Thursday. And of course, we'll have more on that throughout the course of the post-game show as news trickles out, if it does. And of course, on illegalcurve.com. We say good evening to everyone watching us. Almost 550 people are here live watching us. It is the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mindell, Dave Manouk. We do this after each and every Winnipeg Jets game. We're going to do it on Thursday night as well, even though the game isn't going to matter for anything. And of course, stay tuned. Details to come, an Illegal Curve watch party for the playoffs, as well as a live on location broadcast of the Illegal Curve post-game show. Stay tuned to all of our social media at Illegal Curve on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, wherever we are. Stay tuned for more information about that. And of course, on the website, illegalcurve.com. If you haven't already done so, smash the like button. We ask you to do that. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the podcast. Leave us feedback here, there, and everywhere.
Come on, folks. As Drew just said, there's almost 550 of you.
Yeah.
Let's get some podcast comments.
Let's go.
Not just on the YouTube. I like it when you leave comments on the YouTube page, but go on Apple, go on Spotify, drop some comments, let other people. That's how other people find out about us. So keep doing that.
There you go. Exactly as Dave M said. Let's get into tonight's game, the specifics of the game.
Oh, you want to start already, Drew?
The goals of the game. We might as well get into it. It is the Betway game recap. It's brought to you by our friends at Betway, one of the most trusted voices in sports betting, both in Canada and all around the world. Betway is the sports betting app that puts you, the customer, at the forefront. With a large selection of betting options in sports, as well as strong promotions and fair odds, what are you waiting for? Head on over to Betway and bet your way. Must be 19 years or older to play. Please play responsibly. Much needed for the Winnipeg Jets, something they've been good at as of late during this recent run of success, is getting that first goal. Tonight, when you're facing a Minnesota Wild team that you've struggled against this year, that you've struggled against for the last couple of years, getting that first goal was epically important, and the Jets get it. Adam Lowry, how good has he been over the last few weeks? His 13th of the season assist to Nino Niederreiter, and of course Josh Morrissey, because Josh Morrissey always gets assists for this team. His 60th assist on the season. The Jets open the scoring at the 3:53 mark of the first period, Dave. It's a rebound by Lowry, makes no mistake, depositing it past Marc-Andre Fleury. Weren't a lot of shots on goal for the Jets in that first period, but a couple goals, which certainly helps them in the winning column. Yeah,
they made the Wild pay on the ones that they did take, I guess, Drew, especially that first one. Second game in a row now. Of course, Luc Dubois was able to do that for the Jets against the San Jose Sharks last night. Today, it's Adam Lowry on the first shot of the game for the Winnipeg Jets. So huge. I mean, huge from a momentum perspective. And we talk about it all the time with players and coaches and each other, is this idea of not having to play the game from behind. And, you know, if you're the Jets, and the Jets are playing with confidence, right? Let's not forget. The Jets have now won, 5 out of their last 6 games, right? Some of them handily, some of them, you know, in tighter fashion. But the fact of the matter is the Jets they're feeling good about their hockey right now.
Yes.
And again, you know, we're not talking one game. You know, 5 of the last 6 is a decent enough number that you can say, well, you kind of got something here. Have the Jets, you know, because that's the big question mark. You know, when you did it against Detroit, okay. When you did it against New Jersey, well, that was an impressive win against New Jersey, regardless of how people wanted to kind of paint it. Then they kept it rolling. And so from a Jets perspective, that's exactly what you needed to do. But again, it's all about the way that it changes the dynamic of the game if you're chasing against a team, especially against a team that's like Minnesota, who plays the way they do, right? So the Jets instead have the advantage. I mean, really good play by Niederreiter. Adam Lowry, exactly where he needs to be. I mean, Josh Morrissey has 60 assists on the season. It's ridiculous. It's actually ridiculous what Josh Morrissey is doing. So, I mean, it is absolutely remarkable that Josh Morrissey has had the season he's had. And unfortunately for him, you know, Erik Karlsson, who Jets fans saw yesterday, putting up 100 points, will most likely be, and we're not going to get into our Norris discussion. We already had that last night on the show. But the fact of the matter is, Drew, that, you know, these guys have confidence in their game right now. There's a little less nervousness. You know, you're not seeing that tentative play, I think, as much as we were, you know, during that stretch. And, you know, no surprise, right? Winning breeds everything, and winning brings a lot of confidence in the room. And I just think that Adam Lowry, right place, right time, deposits that rebound, and it just sets the tone for that Jets team, who, you know, only have the one shot at that point, being that one, but they have the goal, and they're feeling good because, you know, regardless of whether they were, you know, thinking that to themselves, well, we need 2 points. Obviously, they wanted the win, but for every goal they scored, it meant that Minnesota needed at least 2 to beat them. And they're thinking to themselves, well, at least we're, you know, making it likely that we're going to get at least extra time if you're the Winnipeg Jets. That's my way of looking at it a little bit. Was you're thinking, well, you know, hey, especially when it was 2-0, you're like, okay, they need at least 3. most likely, if they can get back, it's going to be in overtime. So at least we'd punch or take it. Now, that's not the way you want to fall backwards into it. We've talked about it.
And they didn't play that way.
No, I agree. I'm not saying otherwise. I'm just saying that it could have been that way. It wasn't. And one of the things I've been writing about on illegalcurve.com, little website, illegalcurve.com, is the idea of controlling your own destiny. And, we kind of joked about it on Saturday's show, but it is absolutely critical for this team to do. They didn't want to fall ass backwards into this. And I saw one of the comments, and I'm sorry, guys and girls, we've had 10,000 comments already on the show. So I'm appreciating.
We might not be able to get them all on the screen, but we love the interaction that's going on in the chat right now.
And again, the best part about that is even when Drew and I are not able to do it, you guys are having a great time, as part of the discussion. But one of the things that I was just going to say is that these guys are it really is just remarkable what they've been able to achieve, because like I said, they just keep pushing and they keep pushing and so you've got Lowry and he's feeling good about his game, back-to-back games with a goal. He's already set career highs not for his goals. I think that was his 13th and his career high was 15, but he's already set a career high for points. And you can just see there's a confidence and adding Nino Niederreiter to that line has just done it. I don't know what it is. And we've talked about it, and it's not a surprise. Nino Niederreiter has made any line he's played on a better line.
He's just a professional hockey player. I mean, he's a professional hockey player, and he makes, I remember when the Jets signed Matthew Perreault. So going way back when they first signed him away from the Anaheim Ducks. And we were talking to our former colleague, Richard, who of course is now a scout for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And, we were saying, what's the scouting report on Matthew Perreault? And I remember Richard saying he makes the players he plays with better. And I think you could say the same about Nino Niederreiter. He's just such a professional. He's such a smart player, and he's always doing the right thing. You can understand why coaches would love him, because he's one of those guys where you don't have to worry about, is he going to do something that's going to cause you a little bit of heartburn? Is he going to do something that's going to, leave you a little bit upset? He's going to be professional. He's going to be in the right place at the right time, and he's going to improve everyone around him. And you can see how he has fit in so well with Lowry and Appleton, and he's actually made Mason Appleton, I think, a far better player, because too often
he's certainly looked good in the last couple of games or the last little bit.
Too often Mason Appleton has a tendency to disappear and to maybe be sort of, you don't really notice him on the ice, and that's not necessarily a good comment. Sometimes there's some players you don't want to notice on the ice, but he sometimes would disappear for games at a time or shifts at a time. He's been much more noticeable since he's been put together with Nino Niederreiter and with Adam Lowry, of course. And of course, the second line, they weren't the best tonight, Nemesnikov, Wheeler, and Ehlers, but they've been pretty good when they're together. And it was all a surprise to us when Scheifele went to the wing with Dubois and Kyle Connor. But it's worked. It's worked, at least in terms of victories for this Winnipeg Jets team. It's worked in that sense. Now, is it worked largely again on the back of Connor Hellebuyck? Yes, the Jets are who they are. They're still going to go as far as Connor Hellebuyck can take them. But for a team that couldn't score and couldn't win, well, the 5 out of their last 6 leaves them feeling a whole hell of a lot better as they now enter the playoffs starting early next week. 1-0 for the Jets. The first goal only took us about 10 minutes to break down. So with another 3 goals to go, we should be here until about midnight, 1 a.m., somewhere around that front. But that's okay.
Well, Drew, it's okay. It's not like the Manitoba Moose scored 7 goals tonight.
Oh, good God, no. That might the Betway game recap of that game is going to take a real long time. We'll deal with that after the commercial break in still a while to come. Jets made it 2-0. So you get that 1-0 lead. What's the best way to add to that? It's to make it 2-0. And it's Mark Scheifele in a bit of a greasy area, sort of unaccosted by the side of the net by the blue paint. He had a little bit of time in order to sort of try and corral a bit of a bouncing puck. There was a double tip and some pinballed off a few legs. It was a Nate Schmidt shot, and then Pierre-Luc Dubois with the secondary assist. In any event, Scheifele is able to hammer it into the empty net. He makes it 2-0 for the Jets. Scheifele's 42nd of the season. The Jets had 4 shots at this point in time in the first period. They ended the first period with a grand total of 4 shots, yet they managed to also end the first period with a 2-0 lead, Dave.
Hey, it doesn't really make a difference how many shots, they were just trying to conserve it. They wanted their numbers to look good in the when people were saying, oh, Jets shooting percentage is pretty solid after that game. So they certainly were looking good after that first period. And Mark Scheifele has shown that he can score goals in different areas, right? I mean, how significant is it that he's in a dirty area?
Mm-hmm.
More often than not, that's not where we associate Mark Scheifele and scoring goals. And he had a lot of chances. I specifically think about that one that Kyle Connor set him up with on the power play. That's one that's in his office where he generally scores, a lot of his goals from. But that's exactly what you need, because in the playoffs, you don't. Hunter Bob wants to know the final score. Don't worry, Hunter Bob. It was 7-5 for the Moose. We'll get into that. All the goals. But anyways, it might just be a solo show at that point because Drew might sign off. But we'll see where we go from there.
Just keep going.
Anyhow, the Mark Scheifele, though, that again, in the playoffs, goals are harder to come by. I'm not telling you anything that anybody, all 600 of you who are currently in the chat, welcome, by the way. We're not telling you anything that you aren't anticipating or don't know yourself. But the fact is that 55 needs to be in those tougher areas. And that's exactly where he went. And he scores his 42nd goal of the year because he's in a position to take a rebound. And that's what we've talked about. And Nate Schmidt, how many times have we talked about Nate Schmidt needing to hit the net? Because Nate Schmidt's a great person, just fantastic. And we've done lots of interviews with him. We've had him on this show. We've done, individual interviews with him. He's a great person. But, and again, from a defensive perspective, he's got to hit the net. He's got a good shot. He just doesn't. Too often he was missing the net. And those rebounds weren't available. Well, look what happens when that shot hits the net and there's a rebound available. And coincidentally, there's someone there to deposit that rebound into the back of the net. So the Jets are rewarded. And again, you hope for Mark Scheifele that gets in his brain, because that's where you want him to go in the playoffs, is those tougher areas, those harder areas to be. He's not a small guy, so he can be in front of the net and he can take a hit or two, because the fact is, that's where you're going to get those greasy goals. That's where you're going to give your team a boost. And that's a huge goal. I know that, Don Cherry would always famously say the 2-goal lead is the worst lead in hockey. Well, I traditionally think of that as coming out of the third period, which coincidentally, of course, they showed when the Wild started off like gangbusters. But the fact of the matter is that was a significant goal, because you're right. The Wild had the momentum. The Wild had puck possession, and yet the Jets had a 2-0 lead courtesy of Mark Scheifele's 42nd.
Well, we can't talk about the end of the first period and the beginning of the second period without touching on a huge moment, that being the Jets killing off the 5-on-3 that they were facing. With Dylan.
That was in the second, though.
What's that?
That was in the end of the first.
End of the first into the second. Yeah, that's what I said. Dylan DeMello in the box for roughing, and then Saku Manalainen takes a high sticking penalty.
By the way, the DeMello roughing is garbage, because that's not roughing.
Well,
the Sacramento line penalty is a penalty.
Yeah. Well, especially with what ended up getting being allowed later in the game. You're wondering, it's like, did the officials just change their tune about the penalties and
By the way, is this supposed to be a tarps off show, Drew? I mean, if that's the case.
That's no one wants to see you with your shirt off, and I can assure you nobody wants to see me with my shirt off. So Spency, if you want to take your shirt off while you're at home by yourself, or whomever is in your home is a willing victim at that point in time. In any event, you can't talk about this game without mentioning the Jets penalty kill, especially at the end of the first and early in the second, where they kill off this penalty. I mean, it's 2-0 at that point when they get into penalty trouble, and they got into penalty trouble with Wheeler before that. The last half of the first period, they took 3 minor penalties, and it's a completely different game if Minnesota is able to capitalize on one of those power play opportunities late in the first period. But the Jets penalty kill does a great job, Dave, in keeping Minnesota stymied. And of course, Connor Hellebuck, as the old cliche goes, your goaltender has to be your best penalty killer, and he certainly was tonight for the Winnipeg Jets, especially at the end of that first period and early in the second.
Well, nobody's more stymied than me, because T. Will just told me to maintain my tarp on, so I will stay tarped on for T. Will's benefit and the chat's benefit. But although I think someone else said speak for yourself, I think Roscoe wants to see you without your shirt on, Drew. So give the people what they want.
It ain't happening.
Anyways, so no, I mean, look, the penalty kill for the Jets has been very good, and they're a top penalty killing unit in the NHL. And Adam Lowry, Morgan Barron, Mason Appleton, Kevin Stenlund. That's unheralded stuff. We're heralding them right now, but it's generally speaking pretty unheralded stuff when you just block shots, eat pucks, throw them out, and you get the PK is very good. But these guys, they do it. It's unselfish stuff, getting in the shot lanes, blocking shots. I mean, Adam Lowry, I'm sure he's black and blue after that game with a couple of the shots that he had, and Sorry, I just saw the toupees off. That was a good one by I Smell Great. And I think that
I think people would be concerned if I all of a sudden started showing up with hair on my on top of my head for these.
I can give you my Baba's wig. It's somewhere in here.
Thank you. You can keep it for yourself and do whatever you want with that.
All right. Well, I don't do anything with it. It's my Baba's, God's sakes. Have a little respect. Anywho, so the point is that although I did wear one, so I shouldn't say that, but she was there. She saw me wearing it.
Just keep
Anyways,
going, please.
Nice little sidebar.
Yeah.
I can maybe I'll come back from break wearing my Baba's wig.
Yeah, we're not going to break yet, so we still have time.
Oh no, I'm just saying. Eventually. Sorry, we've already gone 35 minutes through, and I haven't really segued much. But look, I think I said this in yesterday's show. The Jets penalty kill has given this team a lot of life. Has given them a lot of energy, because even though obviously, going down 5-on-4, especially like you said, in 3 times in the first period, is less than ideal. The team from what these guys are able to do, I think they are able to build on it, because you can sense that, hey, we just killed it. We're still up in this game, and let's see what we can do. Now, of course, were inopportune at the end of the period, but again, a 5-on-3 kill it's always hard, obviously, to carry over a penalty and have any momentum for the team that's obviously on the power play. Yeah. But I thought the Jets penalty kill was excellent.
Yeah, Jets penalty kill was excellent. And then that second period, there's no goals scored in the second period, but that was certainly the best period for the Winnipeg Jets in today's game. They outshot Minnesota 11-4 in that second period. So sort of a role reversal of the first period, not able to get anything past Marc-Andre Fleury, but the Jets were certainly in control of the game, particularly after sort of the streak of penalties finished, when they killed off the two-man advantage, when the Manalainen penalty expired. And then the back half of that second period was all Winnipeg Jets. And that's exactly what the Jets would hope for. It would have been a very opportune time to get a power play goal. They weren't able to do it. Minnesota ran into a little bit of penalty trouble with Marco Rossi taking that tripping penalty, and that Matt Dumba, the high stick on Mark Scheifele. The Jets weren't able to capitalize, so they weren't able to expand the lead beyond the 2-0 lead that they had. They weren't able to make it 3-0. So the third period, and this is an important third period. Keep in mind, this is a very important game for the Minnesota Wild as well. They are still jockeying for playoff positioning and everything else. They still wanted to, potentially get into the second spot or even the first spot in the Central Division. Mm-hmm. They're not going to now. They are. They're not yet mathematically locked in to third spot, as they conceivably could leapfrog Colorado. Not Dallas, but they could leapfrog Colorado if the Avs were to lose out and if Minnesota were to win their last game against the Nashville Predators. But in any event, it's likely that Minnesota is going to finish third in the Central Division, more likely than not. In any event, the Jets, we know, locked into second spot, the second wild card spot, most likely to play Vegas, but that still has not been confirmed. But I think a lot of people in Winnipeg would be eager to see a rematch against the Vegas Golden Knights, but that's something we can talk about a little bit later on, as we still have the third period to talk about here on the Betway Game Recap. We say good evening again to everybody. Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk with you. It's the Illegal Curve post-game show. We do this after each and every Winnipeg Jets game. We'll do it again Thursday night, and then we'll do it for all of the playoff games, no matter how long the playoffs last. We will be here bringing you the Illegal Curve post-game show. So be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast, so you don't miss an episode or a broadcast of the shows we put together. And again, Saturday morning, 9 a.m., as we have for so many years, the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, comprehensive playoff preview coming this Saturday. So be sure to join us bright and early at 9 a.m. You knew the Wild were going to push. You felt the push coming. And for a while there, for at least it took the Wild a minute 59 while on the power play with Adam Lowry in the box for hooking.
Having saved the goal, by the way.
Having saved a goal, taking a hooking penalty to save a goal. And but you honestly thought that, the Wild might never be able to get one past Connor Hellebuck the way things were going.
No, and I want to just reiterate a point. Sorry, Drew, I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to reiterate a point that was made earlier, felt like 10 years ago, but it was just Lowry has stopped more goals than maybe he's scored, but that's just as critical. And he really has. I mean, that was a goal that was on the stick, and what he does obviously takes a penalty, but he prevents a goal at that point. Now, of course, the Wild scored on the ensuing power play, but you didn't think they were going to, because Connor Hellebuck was, again, he was Hellebuckian. I mean, that save, they're going to be showing that save with the paddle save I mean, it was ridiculous. It was another, again, we talk about guys who drag the team along. We actually said Mark Scheifele, who's been performing, had to put this team on his back. But really, we know that the guy who needed to who always has his team on his back, on his back, is Connor Hellebuck. And again, you saw it throughout the course, because we know that, your best penalty killer has to be your goaltender, and he was sensational.
He sensational is an understatement for some of the saves that he made against the Minnesota Wild tonight. You mentioned the one, the paddle save off of Matt Zuccarello late in the third period is going to be the one that is going to stick in the minds of everyone. And it's not like that was the only one of the game. There were at least 4 or 5 others. That's right. There were other ones that were just as good. Kirill Kaprizov eventually gets the puck past him, his 40th of the season. He's a fantastic hockey player. Assist to John Klingberg and Marcus Johansson. Johansson, of course, is the guy who got injured on the Pion cross-check later in the game. We'll get to that in a little bit. But Kaprizov finally, on the power play, is able to bang one past Connor Hellebuck, and all of a sudden it's a 2-1 game, and there's still 18 minutes and 1 second to play. So the Jets are certainly not guaranteed to be playoff bound when that goal goes in, Dave.
No, and this is going to sound ridiculous, but it's easy to say in hindsight. Mm-hmm. It's almost kind of one of those things that's good for the Winnipeg Jets, because rather than cruising, if they've got a third goal and cruised, you kind of forced them to test their mettle, because you knew that Minnesota was going to throw everything they could at the Winnipeg Jets in order to try and tie that game. Look, the Minnesota Wild don't like the Winnipeg Jets. The Minnesota Wild are very, it's not all of these guys. Remember what the Winnipeg Jets did to them in the playoffs not that long ago.
17-18.
Right. Yeah. What did they do to them?
They beat them handily.
Right? Yeah. It was not much of a challenge in that first round series. So you don't think that the Minnesota Wild would have loved, knowing that this was the, quote, easier of the 2 games the Jets were going to have left, and the Jets needed at least 1 point? You don't think the Minnesota Wild would have loved to have been able to crush the Jets and play spoiler?
Well, absolutely. And you think about, how important this game is from the Jets' perspective. So let's, they had the 2 games to go, and Nashville had the 2 games to go. You think about Nashville. So Nashville was going to get Minnesota on Thursday. Now, the Minnesota Wild may or may not have had anything to play for, depending on the outcome of tonight's game and depending on some of the other games around them. So the Wild could have been going to Nashville with nothing to play for.
And the Iowa Wild.
Yeah, the Iowa Wild, exactly. And they would have had the Iowa Wild with them, not necessarily the Minnesota Wild. And the Predators, of course, would be on home ice with UC Saros in net. Well, advantage to Nashville there, even though they're by and large the Milwaukee Admirals, as we've talked about. And then let's say Nashville wins that one, and let's say the Jets, go into Colorado on Thursday and they're not successful. Well, then what happens? It's a makeup game. The game on Friday between the Predators and the Avalanche is a makeup game. It's a game that was from a postponement when there was a water main break at Bridgestone Arena in Nashville probably 3-4 months ago. Well, that game probably wasn't going to mean much to Colorado also. So Colorado was going to have to play on the second half of a back-to-back, fly from Denver to Nashville, play a Predators team that had a lot to play for. It was very, very important for the Jets to take care of business tonight, to not let any doubt creep into their minds as to how things are going to go. Because if you lose tonight's game in regulation, you can certainly foresee a situation where they're not able to beat Colorado and Nashville is able to win both on home ice against opponents that may very well have not had a lot to play for. So for the Jets, they didn't treat this one as, okay, we have another one still to come. They knew that really the desperate game was almost tonight, and they took care of business.
Well, and further to what you're suggesting, Drew, is also the fact that you now can rest your guys. Yes, and now from today's Tuesday?
Yeah.
You've almost got 6 days. Obviously, you're going to practice. Yeah. Jets are off tomorrow. They're back in action on Thursday in Colorado. But you now can, I know people are saying call up everybody from the Moose. You don't really need to, given the fact that, like I said, you could. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I mean, I've been a proponent of giving guys on the Moose.
You still have to be within the salary cap, of course.
Right, yeah. So you can't call up everyone.
Roster requirements.
Right. So they'd still have to be cap compliant. So they have to be cognizant of that. And they're going to, like I said, Dave Gustafson, actually on, all those guys are going to play. But ultimately now, most importantly, Connor Hellebuck. he's resting. You're not going to overtax him. I mean, he's played. Was this not his 13th game in a row or 14th? It was at least his 13th.
I can't think. When was the last time that Riddick played? I'm trying to remember. I mean, I can look. I mean, it's been.
It doesn't really make it. It doesn't matter. It was a long time ago. Anyways, was it the Colorado? We don't know. Was it the San Jose game where they lost in overtime?
It might have been that game. It might have been that long ago, which is certainly a long time ago. That would have been March 6th. I don't think. Yeah, I think it's probably been March 6th, or because Hellebuck went back to back.
Okay, so Phyllis and Matthew Thompson are saying it was 13 in a row. So my first number was accurate, but the fact is that you give Connor Hellebuck a night off, you let him rest, and like you said, Drew, maybe don't even dress him if you make a recall from the Moose, and you give some maybe whatever I haven't looked at the Jets salary cap right now, so I don't know how much flexibility they have in terms of room. But maybe you can make 1 or 2 recalls if you need to and get a guy or two into the lineup if you need to give some guys. I mean, look, maybe obviously you're right. Kyle Capobianco most likely comes in. Logan Stanley maybe comes in to get guys fresh, get guys some, rest before the playoffs, before the grind of the playoffs start. Mm-hmm. I mean, the importance of this win, I think you're 100% right. It's not about being able to not have to worry about being able to punch your ticket and having to win that last game or at least get a point against Colorado. Or because in theory, I mean, I guess, when does the Nashville game start on Thursday?
I believe it's an 8:00. Maybe it's a 7:00 start. Let me double check for you.
Anyways, what I'm saying is that you've now removed that concern and you've given your organization. It's all we've talked about.
7:00. It's a 7:00 Central Time start, which means I guess it's a 6:00 start in Colorado. Probably because they have to fly to Nashville to play that makeup game the next day, which I'm sure they're thrilled about.
Right. So anyway, so the fact is though that again we there's no point in lamenting. There's no point in looking back and saying what could have, would have, should have happened. But the fact is, because of the way the Jets slide occurred and they squandered all those extra points that they had banked already, and they used them up, and they had to, of course, kind of redouble their efforts in order to make the playoffs. They lost the opportunity to be at the point where, like, look at the Minnesota Wild. They rested 6 guys yesterday. That's a luxury. That's an opportunity to give your guys some breaks. So now we'll see that most likely coming into Thursday's game, and they did that because of the way they played in today's game.
Exactly right. And so let's get into Kaprizov makes it 2-1, at just under the 2-minute mark of the third period. And then the Wild, of course, are pushing, but the Jets push back. And then the game gets a little bit chaotic, of course. The Ryan Hartman interference and roughing penalty at the 11:31 mark of the second period, or the third period, pardon me. This is after the Ryan Reeves boarding on Dylan DeMello somehow doesn't get called. I mean, it's just so dirty. It's just so dirty, and it's such a lack of respect for your opponent when you can try and injure somebody in that instance. I mean, Reeves knows what he's doing. He has him, lined up from the face-off dot, and he knows that DeMello's in a vulnerable position. DeMello himself, actually, I think, knows that he's in a vulnerable position and maybe braced himself a little bit for it, and maybe that's why it wasn't as damaging as it could have been. But how it just doesn't get called and how he gets off scot-free with doing it, and I don't mean scot-free from the Jets' response. The Jets can't afford to go crazy in that instance. It's a 1-goal game, but the fact that the NHL just consistently turns the other cheek when it comes to dirty nonsense like that is hard to believe. And then Ryan Hartman, of course, you take an inch, or you give an inch, you take a mile. That's what happens in society. We see it so often. Ryan Hartman on Nikolai Ehlers is just brutally dirty. That's not a hockey play. No. At least the
and for the record, Drew, just to quickly interject, when I watched it real time, I thought possibly. But then when I watched the replay, and Hartman for sure eyeballed Ehlers. No, I know. But when you watch the replay, it's easier. Again, like I said, so many times when we're watching hockey games, whether it's live or on the television, your first blush is kind of you think one thing and then you see the replay, you're like, okay, I feel a little bit different. Well, again, any doubt was removed on the Hartman hit because it's absolutely not a hockey play. It's not. I mean, and anybody who's played hockey knows it's not a hockey play. The puck is, first of all, Ehlers doesn't even have the puck. You can say, if Ehlers had the puck, then I'm not like sitting there, but Ehlers doesn't have the puck. So it's really just absolutely not a hockey play. It's garbage.
Well, that's it. The Reeves one, look, it's dirty, but at least there's plausible deniability. He could claim he was trying to make a hockey play. I mean, he's lying, but it's at least a lie that I can accept. The Hartman one is just predatory. It's just an absolutely predatory hit on a vulnerable person, on a vulnerable opponent, and it's the kind of hit you're trying to level to not hurt somebody. It's okay to sort of hit somebody so that it hurts, but you're trying to injure somebody. You're trying to take away, his potential livelihood. Obviously, they're guaranteed contracts, so it's not going to take away his livelihood. But you're trying to do long-term damage to Ehlers with that hit. It's got no place in the game. The NHL will probably fine him $1,000 for it to really, show him that he means boss. But it's just it's garbage. And we've talked about it, that the Jets, to their credit, made the Wild pay it not at this point in time with their fists, but they made them pay by getting the all-important insurance goal. And that's Mason Appleton, his 5th of the season. It comes at the 14:06 mark. It comes just after the Hartman penalty expires, about 30 seconds after the Hartman penalty expires. Appleton, his 5th, assist to Morgan Barron, assist to Kevin Stenlund, and it starts with Stenlund and a great play in the defensive zone, and then he breaks up what looks like a potentially dangerous rush. The fans in Minnesota don't like it. They thought there was a penalty on this play. Well, we know what the officiating was like tonight. And Stenlund was able to headman it to Barron.
Drew, sorry, I muted myself for a second, but they also were pissed about and probably rightly so, about the offside call that the linesman had just made seconds earlier. But I'm saying that, it's a little insult to injury for Wild fans that are not happy with the call. And then seconds later, the Jets score, kind of the insurance goal.
Exactly right. So, Barron is, Stenlund headmans it to Barron. Barron comes in down the left wing, and he's able to feather the pass. I'm not entirely sure how it gets all the way through, but it gets onto the stick of Mason Appleton, and Mason Appleton makes no mistake on this one, and he beats Marc-Andre Fleury, and you could feel the sense of relief and excitement permeating the Winnipeg Jets bench with this goal at the 14:06 mark. The Jets, with this one, are up 2 goals. They're 5 minutes and 54 seconds away from a playoff spot. Even the 1 point, had it come to that, would have been enough. But just a massive goal for the Winnipeg Jets, who, punch back to the Minnesota Wild before punching them literally when the game went a little bit cuckoo banana puffs shortly thereafter.
No, there's no question about it. I mean, we talk about that, the idea of an insurance marker, and with 6 minutes to go in the game, Mason Appleton, who we've mentioned quite a bit on this broadcast, has really seemed to have upped his game, as have a number of these Winnipeg Jets, and we've talked about those guys. But I mean, Morgan Barron, we know that he's been a phenomenal add to this team in his first full season here in Winnipeg, and I just think that you see what Mason Appleton can do, and that's why he was like the AHL. I mean, he was the AHL Rookie of the Year. He can score goals, and he hasn't always shown it very consistently at the NHL level, but he does have that ability. He's got size. He's got some wheels.
That's what you always want. You always expect to get more out of him.
No, I know. And again, like I said, nobody watched Mason Appleton more, in his AHL days than me. And I shouldn't say nobody, but there are not many who watched.
Nobody that wasn't being actively employed by True North.
That's true. None of exactly. That's a very good point. So, but the fact is that he does have, remember, Mason Appleton is a 6th rounder. He's what we call the old diamond in the rough from 2015. I remember I talked to scouts about him, and they used to say he's could end up being one of the best. So he's not going to be quite as good as that first rounder. Maybe he could equal what the second rounder did. Maybe not quite him either. But Mason Appleton's been a phenomenal player in this organization. Again, another draft and developed player here for the Winnipeg Jets. And again, that's what we've talked. Well, Drew, but what we've talked about is the fact that you can't have a third line that just treads water. You need a third line that can do what they do, which is hold the first line, the opposing team's first line from scoring, but can also bang in a couple of goals. And now we're seeing it. Adam Lowry scoring, Mason Appleton scoring. Nito Niederreiter is either scoring or setting guys up. So that's what this team needed, was that all 3 lines are really a threat to score. And obviously it was a little jumbled at that point, and Kevin Stenlund's on the 4th line. And you got to give Kevin Stenlund credit, because that play at the blue line is not an easy one.
Right.
He's off balance. He's got one hand here. He's got one hand on the stick, makes the play, gets it into the zone, doesn't ice the puck. So, I mean, give Kevin Stenlund, who's, I think he went a long time without any points.
Yeah.
I feels like, did he go like 40 games without any points?
They said something on the broadcast that it had been his first assist in
like 40 games or something like that.
A really ridiculous
he had the 2-goal game, right? But like it was a long time. I think it was like 40 games. But the point is that it was a nice play by Kevin Stenlund. And, and he's another one of those unheralded guys who isn't on the score sheet a lot, so he doesn't get a lot of reference, but he does do a lot of the things that this team needs, obviously with faceoffs, obviously on the penalty kill. And that's a nice play. And he sets it up, and then 22 finishes it off. And that at that point, you felt like, okay, well, this game is the Jets. But now, again, it's with 6 minutes to go in a 3-1 game with chaos between friendly Manitoba and Minnesota Nice. How is it going to end up looking? And you had a feeling it was going to go this way when the Wild realized the Jets were going to get at least a point and punch their ticket to the playoffs.
Yeah, and the Jets did that, and then it got a little wild and woolly and everything else. And you saw Rick Bowness. I'm sure it's floating around Twitter, so I'm sure people have seen it. Rick Bowness, saying to Dean Evison, and Dean Evison saying back to him. And you know what? Look, the emotion is what's important, because I'm a firm believer that an 82 game season is just too damn long. It becomes such a slog for so many of these teams, and it's just, one game often blends into the next, and there's no real emotion in a lot of these games. When there is emotion, when there is passion, when there's truly a rivalry, that's what sports is at its absolute best. And we see it too few times a season. And we saw it tonight between the Jets and the Wild. And that's certainly what happened at the end of the game with Brendan Dillon on Ryan Hartman, and then with Adam Lowry and Ryan Reeves. And, everything else that got a little bit chaotic. I would not be surprised if Dean Evison or the Wild organization maybe gets a fine for some of the shenanigans late in the game there with putting Reeves on the ice. Again, that's message sending from them as well. That's message sending from the Minnesota Wild saying, yeah, you may have won this game, but you're also, we're not going to just stand by and idly let you celebrate on our ice. We're going to make you fight for it. And the Jets said, okay, no problem whatsoever. We will gladly fight our way through it. And so both teams are probably perfectly fine with how the end of tonight's game went. Certainly the Jets, in that they punch their ticket to the playoffs and they show up for the fight. Minnesota Wild obviously don't like the result, but they are already playoff bound. Anyways, it's a shame that these two teams won't meet again until probably at least the Western Conference Final, if it came to that point in time.
Could you imagine that one?
No, I can't.
That'd be unbelievable.
Yeah,
Minnesota and Manitoba.
Chainsaws on the ice instead of hockey sticks. Let the blood spill and let the bodies lay where they may. In any event, the Winnipeg Jets are playoff bound. 3-1 victory tonight over the Minnesota Wild. It took a lot longer than it seemed like it was going to take earlier in the year. And I don't think anybody thought it was necessarily going to take until game number 81, but that's how long it took for the Jets to punch their ticket. The whiteout, literally, not the literal whiteout, thankfully, given the nice warm weather we're currently experiencing, but the whiteout is going to be back in Winnipeg with the schedule to be determined.
Double whiteout, Drew.
Yes, with the Moose as well, and the Ice are still in the playoffs as well, heading into the second round of the Western Hockey League. Going to be a lot of playoff hockey coming in Winnipeg, is what we're saying. And those of us here at Illegal Curve are thrilled to bring you all the coverage that you need through the Illegal Curve postgame show, through illegalcurve.com, and of course, through Saturday morning's Illegal Curve hockey show. I should say that before we wrap up the Betway game recap, Mason Appleton's shot, the insurance marker, is our Seagram's shot of the game. And something like that, given the fireworks in tonight's game, can only be brought to you by Fireball. Tastes like heaven, burns like hell. Pick it up at your local liquor mart or wherever fine Seagram's products are sold. Big thanks to our friends at Seagram's for their sponsorship of the Illegal Curve post-game show. And the Betway game recap is, of course, brought to you by Betway. It's simple, fun, and safe to bet with Betway. So head on over to Betway and bet your way. Must be 19 years or older to play. Please play responsibly as the playoffs are set to begin. If you have a company or you know of a company that wants to become a sponsor here on the Illegal Curve post-game show, send us a message. You can send either Dave or myself an email, drew@illegalcurve.com, dave@illegalcurve.com, or slide into our DMs at ICDrew, at ICDave, at Illegal Curve. Our DMs are open. We would love for your company, business, whatever it might be, whatever you want to advertise. We'd love for you to join our roster of advertisers ahead of this playoff run. When we come back, much more on tonight's Jets playoff clinching victory over the Minnesota Wild, much more on the Manitoba Moose playoff clinching victory over the Texas Stars, much more of the Illegal Curve postgame show. Drew Mindell, Dave Minuk. It's a Tuesday night. Don't go anywhere. We're live on YouTube and all of our social media platforms.
Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Jon Stewart, Dennis Miller, Brad Garrett, the biggest acts and all the up-and-comers. They've all made their mark at Rumors Comedy Club, North America's longest-running independent comedy club. Rumors has kept Winnipeg laughing for over 25 years. When was the last time you laughed out loud? Make it a great night out with friends or book your office or birthday party, even a fundraising event at Rumors. Get all the details and dates on upcoming shows at rumorscomedyclub.com.
He winds up. Oh, looks like Ezzy took that one right in the choppers.
A blistering fast puck hurts like HE double hockey sticks. That's why I let the pros at Linden Market Dental Center turn my yow into
wow.
Get your brilliant smile back with state-of-the-art restorative and cosmetic dentistry from real pros.
And remember, always wear a mouth guard.
Now that's solid on ice advice. Learn more at lindenmarketdentalcenter.com. Creating smiles for life.
Whoa, Ezzy, everything okay? You look stressed.
Of course I'm stressed. We're moving, the house is upside down, the kids failed miserably at packing the fine china, and my life is in chaos. Chaos!
Yes, that does sound like a problem.
What am I going to do?
Ezzy, relax. Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage is the answer. With 60 years of experience in moving Manitobans and a track record of exemplary customer service, one call to Rolly's and your stress is gone. No job is too big or too small. Just visit Rollies.com and they will take it from there.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage, online at Rollies.com.
Dave, my man, why are you in the car already? It's hours until game time.
Drew, it's because I'm stressed out right now, driving around downtown Winnipeg, looking for a parking spot, and I'm not finding one. I've lost Ginsburg. I don't even know where that guy is right now.
Dave, haven't I taught you anything? Do what I do. Pre-book your entire month's worth of game day parking with the Grid Park app. It's super easy to use and saves me both time and stress.
Well, Drew, I'm not independently wealthy like you are. So I'm sorry that I don't have millions of dollars to pre-book my parking month in advance. What's that going to cost you? $25?
How about $5?
Come on, $5? No way.
$5. I'm not telling you a lie. And our listeners can get a free park with the new special promo code Illegal Curve. Guess what? There's more.
Come on, there's more, Drew. You're lying to me. What more could there be?
Grid Park now has underground parking, so my car can stay warm during the game.
So wait a second. All the driving around I do, looking for parking, minus 40. You're telling me I could be toasty warm in a car after the hockey game?
That's exactly what I'm telling you. Underground parking. Just download the Grid Park app. That's GRYD Park and use the code Illegal Curve. All one word. You'll park for free your first time.
Hi, it's Drew from Illegal Curve here. Selling your home can be stressful, but it wasn't for me. Thanks to my friends at Zappia Group Realty, they made the process so easy. My home sold within 48 hours and with multiple offers. Zappia Group Realty took care of everything with their exquisite customer service and attention to detail. If you want to sell your home for more in less time, get started by talking to Frank and Mauro Zappia of Zappia Group Realty. Online at zappiagroup.com.
For 3 generations and over 80 years, Tough Duck has been making apparel that works and plays as hard as the people who wear it. From jackets to work boots and everything in between, Tough Duck's clothing can handle the harshest environments, even the Illegal Curve hockey show. Work to live, live to play. Visit toughduck.com. Couple minutes before 11 o'clock. Welcome back to the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mindell, Dave Manouk with you, talking about the Winnipeg Jets' 3-1 victory over the Minnesota Wild. They clinch a playoff spot to be determined when the playoffs begin. I believe the earliest possible date is April the 17th, which is next Monday. We remind everyone, stay tuned for information about an Illegal Curve viewing party and live broadcast. Obviously can't finalize those details because we don't know the schedule yet. But once we know the schedule, those details will come out, and we expect all of you good folks who are able to make it to join us live in person for an Illegal Curve broadcast and watch party, as the Jets will do battle against question mark, but we know that they are going to start on the road. The odds right now say it's in Vegas. Time will tell if that is actually where it ends up. Mr. Dave Manouk. No, I haven't seen any comments coming out of the Jets dressing room as of late, or as of yet. We'll keep an eye on that and, of course, bring them to you.
Kenny and Jeff. We're going to have to pillory them.
Well, Jeff's on with, yeah, exactly. We're Kenny and Jeff. This is why we need Murat always on the road. Murat's really good at tweeting out the post-game quotes. But in any event, we'll have those for you as soon as they're available on illegalcurve.com if they're not available here on the post-game show. Dave M., another Manitoba-based team, Winnipeg-based team, punched their ticket to the playoffs earlier tonight. We're not going to go goal by goal for that one, but nonetheless, here we have a very important.
Put on your antlers. It's time for the Manouk Moose Minute on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
Let's go. It's my time to shine. The Manouk Moose Minute. Well, as everyone knows, Moose ended their homestand with a win, and they were heading out on the final regular season road trip starting in Texas tonight against the Texas Stars, just needing 2 points. There were a number of scenarios for the Moose in ways they could clinch, but as we talked about with the Jets, always better to control your own destiny and not rely on other teams to manufacture it for you. So the Moose were in Texas and got things started with Jeff Malott. He took over the goal scoring, or he tied, Jansen Harkins for the goal scoring lead, his 22nd goal of the season. We obviously talk about Jeff quite a bit. He took advantage of a nice little turnover by the Texas Stars. So he scored. The Nash and Sautner scored. So the Moose had a 2-0 lead. Familiar because the Jets also had a 2-0 lead after 20 minutes. Well, the Moose copied them, but then the Stars started to get back into it. They made it a 2-1 game. Jansen Harkins, got to highlight this goal, Drew. It's going to be on our Illegal Curve Instagram. I haven't done it yet because it's been nonstop action when there's two games happening at the exact same time. I'm trying my best. I'm clipping it. If you want to go to the IC Dave Twitter account, I've got almost all except for the empty net goal on my account right now. But the fact is that Jansen Harkins scored a beautiful goal, found himself some time and space in the Texas zone to make it a 3-1 game. Nice pass from Jeff Malott, who gave up his goal-scoring lead to Jansen Harkins, who scored his 23rd. But then the Moose slipped. And, of course, I can't exactly attest to what happened because I was trying to watch the Jets game so I could speak to what was happening on that game here in this post-game show. But the Moose did give up 3 straight goals to the Stars. So suddenly a 2-1 lead was a 4-3 deficit. 3-1 lead was a 4-3 deficit for the Manitoba Moose in the third period. And then alternate captain Cole Meyer, he scored a beauty, got some time and space. Alex Limoges, who's was the leading scorer last I checked, he set him up. And so Cole Meyer tied it. And I was literally writing the tweet, watching Jets game, clip the video, watching the tweet, about to make the tweet. And of course, Texas Stars scored again. So suddenly 35 seconds later, it's 5-4 Texas. You're thinking, well, maybe the Moose don't have it in them to win and maybe they're going to have to rely on someone else. But I should have known better. Leon Gawanke, the 2017 fifth rounder, he scores his 18th goal of the season, which, as folks know, is the now Manitoba Moose record for goals by a defenseman. He had broken the record held by Sami Niku, but he had tied the record by Brett Hauer. Now, Brett Hauer, who may not be coincidentally from Minnesota, may not be a household name, but he was a Manitoba Moose in the IHL days. He spent, I think, 4 seasons with the Moose, and he scored in 2000-2001 17 goals. So with that goal, Leon Gawanke became the top scoring, record-setting goal scoring defenseman for the Manitoba Moose, IHL, AHL, whichever iteration you want to discuss. It's Leon's record now with 18. Jansen Harkins added another Nice goal. It was a nice little bottle popper. And so that increased the lead. And then Leon Gavanke, a little empty net action with his 19th goal of the season. So the Moose won themselves the game 7-5. Again, no Arvid Holm. He was out due to illness. So Oskari Salminen was in net. Evan Cormier was backing up. And the Moose will have a rematch with Texas before they go and finish the regular season against Rockford and Chicago. And most likely the Moose, not that Moose fans want to, but the Moose fans are going to be seeing most likely the Milwaukee. Although actually you don't know because Texas was in first place and that was their game in hand on Milwaukee. They have a 2-point edge with 3 games to go. So if Texas beats the Moose and the Milwaukee gets on a roll, then it might be Texas, who I actually think is a better matchup personally for the Moose because Dallas will have their guys up with the big club, whereas Milwaukee is going to send all those guys Jets fans just saw play for Nashville the other day. They're going to be back on the Milwaukee Admirals when their season ends, now that it's officially over. Yeah. So Moose will most likely not want to see the Milwaukee Admirals in the first round of the playoffs. It could end up that way. We don't know. But for right now, we know that the Moose are a playoff team and there'll be a second whiteout. So folks will be excited to be able to support some AHL hockey. We might have some tickets for that. So stay tuned for more information, but that's the way it goes. And now they get a chance to kind of keep the good feelings rolling. They got a 2-game winning streak. So they'll probably want to keep that rolling for the next 3 games and go into the playoffs feeling good about themselves.
There you go. Dave M with the Moose Minute for tonight. The Moose victorious in Texas. Take a deep breath, my good man. They've punched their ticket. It's a playoff ticket punching kind of night here in Winnipeg as the Jets do it 3-1 over the Wild and the Moose do it, of course, deep in Texas as well. We still have contests to run. We got one more regular season.
Although, Drew, just sorry, we should also mention, because we didn't know until last night, but we didn't get a chance to say it, and the Ice will face the Moose Jaw Warriors because Saskatoon defeated Regina last night. Yeah. So Connor Bedard's junior career comes to an end. He'll be the first overall pick in the June draft. But
way to go on a limb there.
Yeah, and real insightful stuff for me on that one. Yeah. But we now know because the Ice had to wait to find out who they were going to be facing off. They'll be facing off against the Moose Jaw Warriors, who coincidentally they met last year in the second round. It was actually a rather even season series. I think it was 3 games apiece for both the teams. Game 1 goes Friday here in Winnipeg.
There you go. Quick out-of-town scoreboard update. Colorado and Edmonton are tied at 1-1. Whomever loses that game means the Jets won't be able to face them in the first round of the playoffs. So if you want if you don't want the Jets to face the Oilers, and I think a lot of people who might be of that era would be having a little bit of traumatic flashbacks to that.
Do you have to say that anymore after the Jets?
You still have to say it. Yeah,
really? I don't think so.
I do. No. I do. It's not the same. This Oilers team, I think, is the scariest.
Oh no, I mean that for that reason, yes.
Yeah, it's still traumatic. Even the fun of that and doing the post game show after the quadruple overtime game when it was 3 a.m. and we had however many.
Speak for yourself. I was downtown Winnipeg by myself at 2 a.m.
Were you doing? I'm trying to remember. I guess you were.
I did the game. I did the game at the arena still.
Right. I guess you were still at the arena for that one. But it was a fun post game show. But yes, it's still.
Sure was.
I look in terms of matchup. In terms of who I think the Jets.
No, Vegas. I think Vegas is a better matchup.
Vegas is, I think, the best matchup.
Absolutely.
Simply because of the goaltending equation. I mean, Vegas is a very good team, and coincidentally, Mark Stone looks like he's going to be healthy in time for the playoffs. Imagine that! I can't believe another team was able to get away with a LTIR shenanigans. That never happens in the NHL. But I still think Vegas with the goaltending is the
the Jets know how to beat Laurent Brossoit, anyways. So.
Well, the Jets would certainly be the underdog. Let's not get carried away or anything.
No, of
course.
The
Jets would certainly be the heavy underdog, but I think that's probably the team, or Dallas for that matter. I think the Jets and the Dallas Stars have enough.
It'd be a great goaltending duo, that's for sure.
Certainly would.
Plus, what a good story between Rick Bowness and his whole team.
Right, but it's probably not going to be. Vegas is now up 4-1 on Seattle, and a Vegas victory means that the Jets and the Stars cannot meet in the first round of the playoffs.
Drew's bringing you up to date.
There you go, bringing you up to date. Yeah, Jonathan Quick, of course, there in Vegas. In any event, we'll have the answer by Saturday morning. We might even have the answer by Thursday's post-game show, but Saturday morning for sure, in-depth playoff preview live here on our YouTube channel. So be sure to get ready for that following Thursday's final regular season post game show. We've done 81 of these. We might as well do 82 before we get into the playoff ones.
Yeah, Drew. We're not bringing in the next wave of
next
IC
wave of talent.
Yeah, we're like, guys, we actually need a night off, so we're gonna be in the press box.
Kids. Yeah, it's my kids and it's Ezzy's kids are going to do the post game show. It's going to be really weird, but somehow it's going to be more mature.
I suspect my TV, instead of showing the fireplace, will be like some kids' cartoons.
Yeah, exactly. Somehow they're more verbose and less immature than we are, but that's just our unique behavior.
Our unique brand. Our unique brand.
The unique brand. Exactly right. That has so many of you still with us on this Tuesday evening. We're thrilled that you're still with us here watching the Illegal Curve post-game show. If you haven't already done so, smash the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast, leave us feedback here, there, and everywhere. We always love what you guys have to say about the post-game show. Let's do some contest giveaways, Dave M.
Do it.
Let's do it. I found there was a lot of good comments. I thought this one, it was a little succinct, but I thought I liked it very much for the Tough Duck.
Hey, Drew, you can give them more than one. You can give out two if you want.
It's true. I could.
I'm
not sure that this fine gentleman has won before, but Chris Vermette.
I don't think
all the Wild antics, all the Minnesota Wild antics did was piss the Jets off and galvanize the team. Perfect timing. Thanks, Minnie. So Chris Vermette, with that comment, you are our Tough Duck hardest hitting comment for tonight's post-game show. As a result, you are now going to get punched in the face by Adam Lowry. No, I'm just kidding. You're going to, in fact, win a toque courtesy of our friends at Tough Duck. So send me an email, drew@illegalcurve.com, or slide into my DMs at ICDrew, and we'll hook you up with a toque and some other good stuff from our friends at Tough Duck. In fact, it might not even be a toque as the weather is turning. It might be something more usable for the nice warm weather that we're currently experiencing. I'm sure nobody is the least bit upset about seeing all the snow melt away. As we've done, Dave M, throughout the course of this regular season, we give away merchandise. Winnipeg
second
Jets,
last one.
Exactly. We give away merchandise, Winnipeg Jets merchandise, courtesy of us here at Illegal Curve. All you have to do to win is enter the Illegal Curve merchandise contest. The best way to enter it is click the contest link in the drop-down arrow. I can't believe I've said this spiel 81 times already this year, but you click the link in the drop-down arrow on the show description on the YouTube page. If you can't find it there, you go to illegalcurve.com, you click on any article, you'll see the contest link there. You do any number of the tasks that are available to you. The more tasks you do, the more entries you get. And of course, by entering the unique code word, you get 10 additional entries. Tonight's unique code, courtesy of those of us who are familiar with this fine establishment in Minneapolis, not in St. Paul, but in Minneapolis, Sneaky Pete's is the code word for tonight's Illegal Curve merchandise contest. Enter the unique code word on the contest page. As we said, get 10 entries, and the more times you get those 10 entries, maybe you will win the prize for game number 82 of the Illegal Curve merchandise contest. So Sneaky Pete's, SNEAKYPETES.
Supposed to be apostrophe, but the apostrophe would screw it up. So I didn't.
We don't use the apostrophe. We don't believe in proper grammar. We also say that you're an idiot. YOUR, not YOU apostrophe RE. That's just how we roll here. Who needs grammar?
I did do a bad YOUR versus YOU apostrophe RE today on a tweet, which pissed me off because it was Leon Gavanke's record-setting tweet, and as soon as I sent it, and I was kind of like, whatever. And again, Jets Moose.
Yeah.
And I realized after, I was like, oh, how did I do that? But I don't think it was me. Actually, I think it was an autocorrect. Stupid phone.
Well, what should we do? Should we maybe send you back to grade school or something like that as a result of that error? Or how about instead, I'm going to read some of the quotes from the post game. This is coming out of Jeff Hamilton's game article.
Oh, time.
Just
Hammer.
published
what the
on
heck?
winnipegfreepress.com. Here's
Drew, just maybe you should just give the winner.
Oh yeah,
let's
I'll do
do
the
winner
first.
and then maybe you can read your quotes.
With that. So here's the winner of the merchandise contest for tonight. Congratulations to Rob Hutchison. Rob Hutchison is the winner of the Illegal Curve merchandise contest for tonight. Rob will be in touch. Congratulations. You're going to get some great Jets gear courtesy of us here at Illegal Curve. Thanks for your support. Thanks for entering the contest. As I said, one more opportunity for everyone. That comes Thursday night at the Jets Colorado Avalanche game. Here's Mark Scheifele tonight. Give credit to every guy in this room. We battled hard the last little while to get back to being in the playoffs. Obviously, we wish we would have stayed at the top, but that happens. Everything happens for a reason, and we just have to trust in that plan. So that is Mark Scheifele talking about the Winnipeg Jets. He continues on later on in the article. Again, we encourage you to read Jeff Hamilton's article. The saves he made down the stretch were amazing, Mark Scheifele said about Connor Hellebuck. We sat back a little too much and gave them way too much respect and way too much room to make plays, but he won that game for us. Certainly not something we haven't heard, something we've heard multiple times over the last number of years. Here's Connor Hellebuck talking about some of the end of game shenanigans when things got a little chaotic between the Jets and the Minnesota Wild. Quote, "They got really dirty. We were playing hard. I guess they were playing hard too, but they were getting a little unnecessary. Maybe the refs let it get a little out of control. That's playoff hockey right there. That's it." Certainly was a little out of control, but the mindset and the ferociousness should sort of flip a switch for everyone as the playoffs are set to begin very shortly on Monday. Still to be determined exactly the playoff schedule. But there are some quotes from the Winnipeg Jets dressing room after tonight's 3-1 victory over the Minnesota Wild. Dave M., any final words for you, or are you ready to wrap this one up and get on with your post-game duties for illegalcurve.com?
No, I mean, I think we've hit it all. We've talked about the Jets. We've talked about the Moose. We've talked about the ice.
Yeah.
We've talked about the fact that if you have a chance, leave a comment on the podcast. Go on iTunes, go on Spotify, rate us, review us. Make sure you're hitting a subscribe on our YouTube channel. Can add some subscribers. We're trying to get to that 5,000 number, folks. Let's. I mean, playoffs should be able to get us to that number. Let's maybe try and get there before playoffs. That wouldn't kill us. And what else can I ask you to do? Oh, maybe leave a comment on the YouTube videos. That also helps. Lets people know, hey, there's a show on after every single Jets game. There's a lot of you who joined us. We've had our OGs who have been with us since the beginning of the post game shows. We've got a lot more of late, but we enjoy each and every one of you joining us after each and every single Jets game and on every Saturday morning. So thanks again for joining us. Thanks again for spending your night with us.
Yeah.
81 games down, Drew. 82 to go. I cannot believe we're already
not
here.
82 to go. Not 82 to go.
No, I said number 82. Number 82 to still to go.
Yeah.
But I cannot believe Phyllis gave us an update. Said the Oilers beat the Avs in OT. So there you go. Oh, T. Conapoli. Good memory good mention by you. One thing worth noting, I was trying to sniff around it. I haven't got any insight, but Dmitry Kuzmin, the Jets 2021 third rounder, his OHL season ended with the Flint Firebirds. He was phenomenal, by the way. Goal and 7 assists. Goal and 7 assists in 7 games. He had 3 assists in the game that forced, they were down 3-1. And he had 3 assists in 1 game, 2 assists in the last game in game 7. So Dmitry Kuzmin, he's a left shot defenseman, very offensive defenseman. I think in the coaches poll in the OHL, he finished 3rd for offensive defenseman. He could be signing an ATO with the Moose and maybe getting some games, especially now that they've clinched. So you could expect maybe to see that in the next couple of days. And Danny Zhilkin and Kitchener, I don't know what happened with them. I saw T. Conapoli mention Kitchener. So I'm not sure if they are still in it or not. Maybe, Drew, while you're thinking our sponsors, I'll quickly check that to see what the status is of him, because there's another guy who could be on an ATO and playing with the Moose as the season winds down.
So the Oilers beat the Avalanche, as Phyllis mentioned. That means the Jets and the Avalanche cannot meet in the first round of the playoffs. So it's down between the Jets and the Vegas Golden Knights, or the Jets and the Edmonton Oilers, for whom the Jets can play in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So time will tell. We'll know more in the coming days who the Jets' opponent is. But we know.
Sorry, Drew. Kitchener's playing London in the second round. So no Danny Gillikin right away, the third rounder from 2022, but he could be joining the Jets. The Moose, sorry.
So basically, the way it's going to come down to, the Golden Knights and the Oilers are going to play. They're not going to be playing. Actually, do they play each other on Thursday? Hang on, let me see if I can figure this out real quick. To take a real quick look at everything. Sharks play there. The Golden Knights play the Kraken on Thursday. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, if the Golden Knights win on Thursday, they're going to face the Jets. If the Oilers were to win and the Golden Knights were to lose, the Jets would face the Oilers. But don't quote me on that. There's a lot going on, and my head hurts a little bit.
We'll figure it out eventually.
We'll figure it out eventually. Exactly right. But the Jets are going to be heading through the Pacific Division. That much I can say for sure. They're going to be heading through the Pacific Division for the upcoming playoffs. However,
that'll make for some late night games, Drew.
You know what? I was just thinking about it. They're going to be get some sleep over the next couple days, Dave, because our sleep patterns are going to go a little haywire after that. Add in some overtime games. Who needs sleep? Just put the caffeine,
excited for playoffs. Put
the caffeine right into our veins. A big thank you to all the sponsors of Illegal Curve who make the post-game show, who make the Saturday show, who make the website a possibility. Our friends at Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Andy Noble tomorrow night, Dan Mintz.
Did Frosty get it wrong? Is it not Chris?
Frosty got it on, which I'm not sure who Chris Noble is, because he had it right before, but we'll forgive Frosty on this one. Andy Noble tomorrow night. Dan Mintz from Bob's Burgers is there all weekend long through Thursday.
Sharon.
Yeah, not a lot of tickets available, so get them now. rumorscomedyclub.com. Our friend at Linden Market Dental Center, the Keg and Grid Park, Rolly's Transfer, Zappia Group Realty, Betway. They are the title sponsor of the post-game show. Tough Duck, Seagram's, Boston Pizza. Big thanks to all of these sponsors. Support all of these fine businesses because of their continued support of Illegal Curve Hockey. He's Dave Minuk. I'm Drew Mandel. We're back Thursday night for one final regular season game. We're back Saturday morning for the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Comprehensive playoff preview coming up on Saturday. And of course, for all of the playoff games. And of course, fingers crossed, it's going to work out. A live on location broadcast and watch party for the playoffs as well. Don't go anywhere. IllegalCurve.com, at Illegal Curve, all of our social media platforms. We'll see you then. Until Thursday night and the post-game show right around 9:45 p.m. For Dave Minuk, I'm your host, Drew Mandel. Thanks for joining us. This has been the Illegal Curve post-game show.
Thanks for listening to this broadcast from Illegal Curve Hockey. For more great Illegal Curve content, subscribe to the Illegal Curve YouTube channel, follow at Illegal Curve on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and visit your online home for hockey in Winnipeg, illegalcurve.com.